accidentally found my husband James flirting with my secretary Lily at the office. I was 6 months pregnant at the time. My heart was particularly sad. So I ran out. I didn't expect to get into a car accident on the way. James was trying to save me. His leg was seriously injured, and I had a miscarriage. Later, James fired Lily. He knelt in front of me for a whole month, swearing that he would never do anything wrong to me again. 3 years later, the doctor said I couldn't have children. James, in order to make me happy, suggested we adopt a child. But just as a child who looked like James ran towards me, I overheard his conversation with Dean. "Ethan looks so much like you. If Madam finds out that he's your and Lily's child, what would happen then? Don't worry. Emily has a big heart. If she suspects, just tell her it's all a coincidence." Dean sighed and said, "You deliberately caused a car accident before and forcibly removed your wife's uterus for Lily's child. It's so unfair to her." James' face immediately sank, coldly responded, "As long as she never knows the truth. It's impossible to talk about whether it's fair or not. Things are already like this. I will do my best to make amends until she passes away." The moment I knew the truth, my inner world completely collapsed. All my misfortunes were caused by him. His repentance and deep love. It was actually a play for his favorite person. I wiped away my tears. "Call the assistant. Prepare a corpse just like mine for me." "Thanks." James scrutinized his adopted son Ethan's profile in his office, nodded his head in satisfaction. "All the formalities are done. This way, Ethan can officially become a member of the Smith family." Dean showed a difficult expression. "James, I've never been able to figure it out. Mrs. Emily is your real wife. You've killed Mrs. Emily's child for the sake of an outsider. Not only did you kill Mrs. Emily's child, but you also made her infertile. She also lost her ability to bear children. Don't you feel sad?" James heard the word outsider. His brows immediately furrowed. "Obviously not too happy," he said. "Lily is not an outsider. I promised her a long time ago. The future heirs of Smith Group will only be her children. As for Emily, I will spend my whole life to make up for it. Besides, I'll take care of Emily. But what about Lily? I can't give her a proper identity. I have to leave her alone with a child to live a hard life. In the end, I'm sorry for Lily and her child, but the dean doesn't think so." He sighed and said, "Paper can't wrap fire. With Mtikes Lily's character, Madam will know the truth sooner or later. Spiritual damage can't be made up with material things." "James, you think about it again," James said with a look of impatience. "Lily has a good heart. She wouldn't do anything like that. This is my family business. I know how to handle it. You just keep your mouth shut. I won't let that day happen." After I listened to this conversation, it felt like being doused with a tub of ice water from head to toe, shivering all over. Until now, I still remember the day of the car accident. James was trying to save me. His calf was crushed by the truck, although I wasn't hurt. But under the strong impact, I unfortunately had a miscarriage. When I woke up, James ignored the fact that the wound was still bleeding, dragging that almost ruined leg. Kneeled down beside my bed and said, "Emily, I'm such an asshole. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have run out into the street. It's all my fault. If you're angry, hit me and yell at me. I'll do anything to make you feel better. I'll do anything. You're gone. I'll feel better." I touched my flat stomach. Tiredly, I let them go. From then on, I couldn't eat every day. My heart was filled with guilt for my children. James is still injured, on crutches every day to send me food and medicine, serving tea and water. As long as I frown, he immediately ran over to ask me where I was uncomfortable. Everyone says James is a rare good husband. For me, he'd give up his life for me. One night, I was struggling in my dream when I had a nightmare. I accidentally touched a wound, resulting in a hemorrhage in my lower body. James discovered this during his vigil, didn't even bother to take his crutches. He rushed out to find a doctor, while the doctor was treating my wound. Also reprimanded James, "Why don't you know how to take care of yourself? You're not taking care of yourself. I'm going to have a big problem with my leg." James said with a simple smile, "As long as my wife is okay, as long as my wife is fine, it's worth it." Seeing the heavy dark circles under his eyes from taking care of me, I couldn't help but cry. After being discharged from the hospital, James, in order to make me feel at ease, he dismissed his female secretary, keeping a distance from all the opposite sex. He came home on time after work every day. He's been by my side for the past 3 years, gave me a sense of security, even after learning that I'm sterile. He didn't mind. Instead, he comforted me by saying, "This is God does not want me to suffer anymore." I thought James truly loved me. He paid a lot for me. I didn't expect that all these years. He did it for another woman, always pretending in front of me. I came back to my senses, looking at this Ethan who looks like James in front of me, and remembering those words I just heard. I panicked. I pushed him away. I wanted to leave quickly. At that moment, James' voice came from behind. With caution, "Emily, didn't I tell you to keep an eye on Ethan? Why did you come to the office?" I turned around and looked. James was staring at me with a stern face. Ethan cried out in fear. I tried to comfort him and quickly made an excuse. I need to go to the restroom, but couldn't find the way, got lost. James finished listening. Relieved, the tense expression on his face disappeared, but immediately after, my words made him nervous again. "James, why does Ethan look so much like you?" When Ethan heard that, immediately stopped crying. He looked at James aggrievedly. There was a bit of discomfort in his eyes. James was also stunned. The heart is also a little weak. After a while, before laughing out, "You say coincidence. I thought the same thing when I first saw Ethan. This may be the fate of God. We are destined to be father and son." Finished. He changed the subject. He walked out of the orphanage with Ethan and me in his arms. I was the only one who knew. He always unconsciously touches his nose when he talks. That means he's lying. I had just arrived home. There was an unexpected visitor at the door. James' ex-secretary Lily was holding a bouquet of flowers, smiling and looking our way. Ethan just got out of the car. He rushed to Lily, hugged her tightly. "Mom, I missed you so much. I missed you so much." Lily hugged Ethan tightly. She gave him a big kiss on the cheek. The two of them are very close. They look like a real mother and son. James saw this when he got off the bus. He turned around and explained to me. Lily used to help Ethan with his schooling. Now she heard that our family has adopted him. She came here to take a look. Lily stroked Ethan's head. Smiling, she said, "Emily, I know Ethan very well. He used to call me Mom. He won't be able to change it for a while. Don't worry about it," she said. She deliberately glared at me. James didn't notice at all, just staring at me, afraid that I would notice something. I smiled calmly. Whoever the child is close to, they call whoever they are close to Mom. This is normal. Finished speaking, James took a long breath. He smiled and said to his wife, "You are so understanding. Thank you for understanding me." I didn't say anything, made an excuse that I was cold from the wind, and went upstairs. James didn't realize I was about to cry. He was holding Ethan. Went inside with Lily. I went into the bedroom. I grabbed the tablet I was using with James. I wanted to look at the ultrasound pictures from my previous pregnancies. They were the only images of our baby left. James especially treasured these photos. Often looking at them made his eyes red. Opened the album. The photos of Ethan and Lily immediately caught my eye. The album is divided into several sections. Each section recorded their different stages of life. When I clicked on the last section labeled with heart emoticons, the long-suppressed tears finally flowed uncontrollably. Each photo was of James and Lily together. The locations were all spots James and I had visited. In the photos, the three of them were smiling especially happily, as if they were the real family. The file name of each photo, James added notes, noting down the interesting events of the time. After Lily was pregnant, James hired a photographer to take her maternity photos every month, from her slightly bulging belly, still with a girlish temperament, to the later pregnant flavor, exudes the glory of motherhood. These photos are all collected by James in the album called Beloved. And after I got pregnant, from the time I found out I was pregnant to 6 months, James' work got busier and busier. I went to every maternity checkup alone. Now that I think about it, he had actually been preparing for this elaborate plan. After I lost my uterus, he always comforted me by saying he didn't like children and didn't want me to suffer from childbirth. Now it seems, those hypocritical words are just after he has another family outside. It's just mercy and charity for me. I looked through the photos mechanically like a machine. Finally, I fell to my knees and cried out in pain. When the tears run out, when my eyes were about to bleed, only then did I force myself to stop. Since my existence is affecting the happiness of their family of 3, then I'll take the initiative to quit. My thoughts were getting clearer. Then I called my assistant. "Go and prepare a corpse exactly like mine for me. 3 days later, I'm going to make my birthday the anniversary of my death." The assistant hesitated. Asked, "Emtikes Emily, you really decided to?" I close my eyes, closing myself like this room without a single light. I'm alive in this house, but it feels like death. I want to start over somewhere else. After hanging up the phone, I booked a flight abroad, started to pack my bags. Over the years, James gave me $300,000 a month for pocket money, apart from my daily expenses. I've hardly spent it. This money is enough for me to live alone for a while. I casually took some clothes, then I went downstairs. Walked halfway, just heard a family in the dining room talking and laughing. James and Lily, mother and son, were eating at the table. Lily picks up a highball glass and says to James, "Brother James, thanks to you, Ethan can enter the Smith family with honor. If it wasn't for you, we'd both be here." James gently wipes away the tears on Lily's face. He said softly, "Don't say these words. From now on, the Smith family will be yours, and the company will be handed over to Ethan. The company will also be handed over to Ethan. What if Emily knows about this? I'm worried about her. Don't worry, I'm here. No one will touch you and Ethan. I'll always be there for you." James took Lily in his arms. Ethan also came over and hugged them. Ethan said, "Mom and Dad, don't worry. I'll keep this little secret for you too," he said. He said while turning his little head smartly. He looked around. I was about to hide in the corner. Nanny Aunt Susan suddenly called out, "Mrs. Why are you down here in bare feet? The floor is so cold. You'll catch a cold." James looked up and saw me. His eyes were a bit flustered, but he opened his mouth with a reproachful tone. "Why did you come down without saying hello? What if you startle Ethan?" Seeing my eyes swollen from crying and the rich dishes on the table, he hurried to explain. "Emily, I don't blame you. You said you weren't feeling well. I thought you were resting, so I didn't call you. It's okay." I interrupted him right away. "I don't want to hear any more lies. I'm not hungry. You guys eat." I was just about to leave. Lily spoke up. "Sister Emily, Ethan just arrived at the Smiths. You should spend more time with him. Don't shut yourself away all the time. I know you've never been a mom. You don't know what it's like to be a mom. But if you're not willing to change, I'm really worried about how well you'll be able to fulfill your role as a mother." Lily gave me advice in a gentle tone, but her eyes pierced me like sharp knives. Seeing this third party who destroyed my marriage still lecturing me from on high, I was on fire, immediately disliked back. "Ethan is my adopted child with James. You, an outsider, interfered and pointed out. Is that appropriate?" When I said that, Lily immediately reddened her eyes. She looked at James for help. James patted Lily, interrupted me. "Emily, you've never been a mom. You don't understand. Lily is telling the truth. She's not wrong. Even if you don't want to eat, you should sit down and see what Ethan likes to eat. Be close to him. Don't ignore him all the time, starting today. I want Lily to be Ethan's tutor. That way you can learn to raise the kids from Lily, and Ethan can have more playmates. You think it's a good idea?" James told me everything in one breath. He didn't let me have a chance to object. He was thinking of Lily in every word, arranging for her to meet Ethan every day in a reasonable manner. I was completely stunned. He had no qualms about letting a third party in and out of our house. He's making a fool out of me as his wife. If it were 3 years ago, I would have made a scene and fight him to the death. But now, I'm exhausted. I don't care so much. He can do whatever he wants. James seems to be discussing with me. In fact, he's giving orders. I nodded my head. It's fine. Ethan does prefer Lily. It's good to have her with us. To my surprise, James let Lily move in the next day. In the morning, there was a lot of commotion downstairs. The movers were moving my clothes into the check room. James saw me, froze for a moment, but his tone was firm. "The house Lily is renting now is too expensive. She's Ethan's tutor. It'll be easier to move in. Isn't your check room always empty? I see you don't buy many clothes. Why don't you let Lily use it?" I don't usually buy clothes, but I bought a lot of baby clothes and toys when I was pregnant. Now, watching those things I've carefully chosen being thrown into the trash can. It's like someone stepped on my dead child's grave. Seeing my face pale, James' expression eased. He whispered to comfort me. "I'm sorry, Emily. Emily, I've made you suffer these few days. It's your birthday the day after tomorrow. I'll make it up to you. I didn't organize the birthday party the way I wanted. On the day we picked up Ethan, he said he'd never seen the ocean. He wanted to see it. James immediately decided to rent a cruise ship to take Ethan to see the sea. Thinking that my birthday is coming soon, I thought I'd celebrate it on the cruise ship. The ticket was booked on my birthday. As soon as I woke up in the morning, I called the waiter to take my luggage to the airport. At that moment, James came to tell me to go out. He was a bit flustered when he saw me. He asked me, "Emily, where are you packing for?" I turned my head to look at him. I said casually, "I've got some stuff I don't need. I'm going to donate it." James finally lets go. Putting his arm around my shoulder easily, he said, "Today is your birthday. Take it easy, talk to Ethan more, boost the relationship. I nodded slightly. Turn around and message my assistant. Ask him how ready he is. The assistant replies, a body with a 90% resemblance to you has been found. It's a drowning death. Good, prepare well. Don't let James get suspicious. The plane leaves in 5 hours. I have enough time to arrange a fake death. I'll be able to get away without any problems. At the birthday party, James invited some partners in the industry and took Ethan to recognize them one by one. He let Ethan learn social etiquette in advance. But I didn't know that. But Ethan is young after all. He couldn't sit still for a while. He sneaked out to look for food. He wanted to take the cake on the counter. But the counter was too high. He couldn't reach it. I was about to help. Lily suddenly appeared, stopped me. She clasped her hands on her chest, walking towards me arrogantly. Don't bother. Emily, no matter what you do, Ethan won't recognize you as his mother. Ethan is mine and James's child. He also said that the heir to the Smith family could only be the heir to the Smith family. The heir to the Smith family can only be Ethan. You'll always be a useless woman. If it wasn't for the money your parents left behind, Brother James would have divorced you long ago. Pa, I can't hold it anymore. I was aggrieved and angry. I used all my strength. I gave Lily a hard slap. Lily's face immediately showed a red slap mark. She was furious and rushed over. I grabbed my hair. Gnashing teeth said, Emily, you are too much. Actually hit me. I am the mother of the heir to the Smith family. Do you understand you still think James loves you? You can't have children. He's the one who got you into this mess. Why do you keep pestering someone who doesn't love you? If I were you, I would have left long ago. Save yourself the embarrassment. Ethan saw the commotion here, rushed over to block in front of Lily. He swung his fist towards me. You're so bad. Don't hit my mom. Oh no, don't hit Emtikes, Lily, or I'll tell Dad. Fists rained down on me. I used my hands to block them. Lily suddenly hugged Ethan. She pushed him back. Suddenly, the counter behind Lily slammed down. Cakes and wine glasses crackled all over the floor. The customers standing around the counter chatting were startled. All eyes turned to us. I was about to say it wasn't me. The next second, a loud slap hit me in the face. I covered my red and burning face, looking up. James had already picked up Lily and her child. His face was filled with heartache. When he looked at me, he was furious. Emily, I didn't expect you to be so careful. Lily was kind enough to help Ethan with his tutoring, but you deliberately said bad things about her. You should apologize to Lily and Ethan right now. As long as they don't mind, this matter will be settled. Ethan cried and pointed at me, shouting, You've gone too far. Hurry up and apologize to Emtikes, Lily. I stood there without moving, taking deep breaths to calm myself down. James saw that I was not looking well. He came over and patted my shoulder. He gently advised me, So many people are watching. You are the Mrs. Smith family. Be generous. It's no big deal to bow your head. The guest next to me also advised. That's right. You're Mrs. Smith. You should be more generous. It's just an apology. It's not that hard. I heard she couldn't have children but wanted to. So she adopted one. But she beat and kicked the child. She doesn't deserve to be a mom. Compared to Lily, she's more suitable to be Ethan's mom. Don't you guys realize that Ethan and Lily look a little bit alike? Listening to these words, I can't help but cry. Tears were welling up in my eyes. I hurriedly picked up my pace and walked away. James kept calling my name behind me. I ignored him. He watched me walk away. His heart was suddenly a little uneasy. He had never seen me so tolerant, as if something was quietly changing. But it was hard to tell. I walked into the lounge, took out my bag, took out the divorce papers that I had prepared earlier, then turned to James. I decided to cut my ties with the Smith family immediately. I went to James' private lounge. I couldn't find him. I called his cell phone, but the familiar ringtone rang behind me. I turned around and looked. No James in sight. Only Lily is seen holding his suit. She saw the agreement in my hand, immediately hung up the phone. She straightened her back and walked towards me. She's got the look of a real house. Emily, if it were me, I'd rather end my life. I'd rather end my life than get divorced. Who would want someone like you after a divorce? You can't have children. You're all alone. What's the point? Finished speaking, he hurriedly took a step back, afraid that I will hit him again. I sneered and said, Okay, then do as you say, you crazy bastard. Lily pushed me away. She took James' suit and left. I didn't find James. The assistant called, Madam, your body has been quietly transported to the cruise ship. When will it be used? I tucked the agreement into the ribbon of a cake box. Right now, after I had my assistant take care of everything, left the cruise ship, headed to the airport. It didn't take long. The cake cutting session arrived. James had been with Lily and her kids. That's when he remembered me, called me. The guests were all here in the banquet hall. Everyone was waiting to celebrate my birthday, but the main character never showed up. James got tired of waiting. He sent someone to look for him. The bodyguard burst into the crowd. He panicked and said to James, "James, something's happened. We found a body in the sea. The body looks exactly the same as Mrs. Exactly the Same." James heard that. His face immediately became flustered, but soon calmed down again. He said doubtfully, "This can't be possible. After we went out to sea, the sea has been very calm, not even a little wind and waves. How could Emily fall into the sea?" The bodyguard was so anxious that he almost cried. "Madam has really gone. She also left a letter." Finished speaking, the bodyguard handed the letter paper to James with both hands. James hurriedly opened the letter paper, only glanced at it. He immediately turned around and ran out of the banquet parlor. His actions threw the entire venue into chaos. People fled in all directions. James hurried to the deck. At a glance, he found a body lying by the fence. The body was covered by a white cloth. The bodyguard had already called for a doctor. The doctor was doing a basic examination. James' heart raced. He didn't think it could be real. He thought it was a deliberate prank he had just pulled when he was angry. He thought so. Feeling slightly better, walked over and lifted the white cloth as soon as he could. The doctor saw it and hurried to stop it. "James, don't lift," before the doctor could finish. James cannot wait to lift the white cloth. In front of him lay a corpse. It looked exactly like me, eyes closed. His face was white. James saw the face that looked just like mine. First he was startled, then he started to get scared. His lips kept trembling, whispering under his breath, "This can't be, absolutely impossible. How could Emily die? You guys must have discussed this a long time ago, to fool me with a fake body. Right, Emily? Emily, I can't believe you came up with this. Where's Emily? Get her out of there." James was so angry he grabbed the doctor by the collar. He was about to punch him. The assistant who had been standing next to him and had not dared to speak finally could not hold back. Trembling voice said, "James, that is really the remains of Madam. You can tell by looking at the ring on her hand." James froze, let go of the doctor. He hurriedly went to check the fingers of the corpse. Sure enough, the corpse was wearing a shiny diamond ring on her ring finger. The moment he saw the ring, James instantly broke down, shouted, "No, that diamond ring was specially designed by James, the only one of its kind in the world. He designed it in the first place to propose to me. He said he wanted to give me a special wedding. So he wanted to give me a special wedding ring too. On that day 3 years ago, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him, after I said yes. His hands shook slightly, excitedly put the ring on my finger. After finishing, he was like a child, happily picking me up and spinning me around. Today, the ring still shines, but the wearer of the ring is covered in dust, never to wake up again. James finally accepted the fact that I was dead. He held my body tightly. He cried uncontrollably. He didn't understand why I chose to jump into the sea to end my life. He blamed himself. "Emily, it was all my fault. I was selfish. I didn't consider your feelings. I made you lose face in front of everyone. Wake up. I haven't apologized to you. Haven't gotten your forgiveness yet." James hugged the body as he cried bitterly. Ethan came running from a distance. James thought Ethan was coming for me. He cried and pulled him back. "Ethan, your mom." Ethan didn't even look at me. With red eyes, he tugged on James' sleeve and shouted, "Dad, go and see Mom." Mommy fell into the sea. James was too upset. He was still in a state of shock. "Ethan, your mom is here." Ethan pushed his hand away. "She's not my mom. She's not my mom. Lily is my real mom. Dad, Mom's dying. Mom is dying. She keeps calling your name. Go and save her." As soon as Lily's name was called out, James immediately came back to his senses. "Lily. Yes, Emily is dead. But Lily can't be okay." He finished, put the body down. He ran off after Ethan. James passed by the door of the banquet room. The weather suddenly changed. A sea breeze blew by. A piece of white paper flew into his face. He took it down and looked at it. There were 4 words written on it, divorce agreement. His eyes immediately turned red. How could he not expect the always gentle and quiet Emily would file for divorce? 3 years ago, James was attracted to Lily, a young and beautiful secretary full of charm. Lily's appearance, to James' boring marriage life, has brought a sense of freshness. The two hid from Emily, often intimate together in the office, until one day, Lily pushing open the door of his office with a big belly. Emily and he argued. Exasperated, she ran out into the road, but things went just as James had planned. He watched as the big truck crashed into Emily, for the sake of the baby in Lily's belly. He went out of his way to cause a car accident to make Emily miscarry, even callously removing her uterus. Thinking back now, Emily was in so much pain. How desperate. But he completely disregarded her feelings, leaving her alone to struggle in endless despair, even after losing her right to be a mother. No more pregnancies. Emily never complained that fate was unfair. On the contrary, she also always comforted James, said she actually didn't like children that much. She even told James directly, if he wants to have a child someday, they could get a divorce. She won't stop him from pursuing happiness. Emily is always so gentle and kind. Sometimes know so much that people heartache, but James not only did not cherish, instead he stepped on her kindness again and again. James recalled the past. Heart full of remorse, he tore up the divorce agreement, said to Emily, even if you are gone, I won't divorce you. You will always be my only wife. He suddenly remembered something. Taking out the suicide note again, he gently stroked the handwriting on it, reread it carefully. The suicide note was very short. There were only a few sentences. All that was written was Emily's feelings for James. James, from acquaintance to acquaintance, from acquaintance to acquaintance to love, and finally to indifference. My feelings for you have never changed, but now I don't want to love you anymore. I'm too tired to love you. Looking back at everything you've done to me, you really love Lily. The one you really love is Lily. In that case, I'll only get in your way. I've decided to leave. James saw the words looking back on what you've done to me. He panicked. He thought, did Emily already know everything? But he immediately shook his head again, thinking it couldn't be, according to Emily's character. If she really knew, she would have made a scene with him long ago. James repeatedly read the suicide note. The heart is getting harder and harder. Ethan walked a few steps. Turning back, he saw that his father wasn't following him. He ran over to pull him. Dad, hurry up and go. Mom is drowning. You know what? Your mom fell into the sea. Won't she call for help? There are so many bodyguards on the boat. Are you still worried that something will happen to her? James impatiently shouted at Ethan. Ethan was taken aback, froze for a few seconds, suddenly burst into tears. But this time James ignored him, just like he did with Emily before. On the other side, Lily had just been rescued from the sea by the bodyguard, but never saw James' figure. She immediately felt that she had jumped into the sea meaninglessly. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth. James calmed down, immediately rushed to the hospital. Lily, see James, immediately put down the cell phone. Lay back on the bed, hand over the chest, she said breathlessly, James, after I fell into the sea, my heart has been hurting. It's hard to breathe. Emily must have cursed me behind my back. You weren't there just now. She came over and pushed me off the cruise ship. If not for the bodyguard's timely arrival, I would have drowned. James was a bit sympathetic, but once he heard Lily say bad things about Emily, he immediately got angry. Emily is already dead. How could she push you down? Lily, you don't talk nonsense. Besides, Emily was so kind. She couldn't even bear to step on an ant. How could she curse you? Seeing James' sudden change in attitude, Lily froze. She never thought that James would speak for Emily. What surprised her even more was, Emily actually passed away. Lily suddenly remembered. She had once jokingly advised Emily to die. Emily responded faintly, okay, do as you say. Is Emily going to jump into the sea because of these words? Thinking about it, Lily's heart was a little weak. She hurriedly suppressed the panic, put on a soft appearance, leaning closely to James. I'm sorry. Brother James, I didn't know Emily had passed away. Take care of yourself, although Emily is gone, but Ethan and I will always be with you. We'll live a good life as a family. Okay, James is getting impatient. He doesn't have time to worry about Lily right now. He just wants to find out why Emily died. He called his bodyguard. He also called his assistants. He asked them to look into the matter. During the long wait for news, James went home. He found all the things that belonged to Emily were gone. James broke down and cried once again. He glanced at the tablet sitting on the desk, suddenly remembered that there were ultrasound photos of her and the baby in the album. Rushed to take it over and look at it. Opened it. It was full of pictures of Lily and Ethan. James' heart tightened. It turned out that Emily knew about it long ago. How sad she should be to see these. But he continued to trample on her wounded heart again and again. Just at this time, The investigation finally made a new discovery. The assistant said to James, "James, we checked. The surveillance on the deck happened to be broken. There's no way to determine whether the lady committed suicide or was murdered. We also checked the surveillance cameras elsewhere. We found that Madam's death might be related to Miss Lily." James' heart tightened. Immediately after, 2 surveillance videos came through. James opened the first one. He heard Lily say, "Emily, if I were you, I would choose to end my life. I'd choose to end my life, not cower in fear of a divorce. Who would want someone like you after a divorce? You can't have children. You have no one to depend on. What's the point of living?" Hearing these words, James immediately became furious. Then, Emily in the video smiled slightly, said, "Okay, just do as you say." James felt like he'd been blown up. His heart broke into pieces. His hands shook as he clicked on the second video. He saw Lily holding Ethan and falling backwards. Immediately after, Lily shouted that she was wronged, accusing Emily of pushing her down. In fact, Lily fell down that day. It wasn't Emily who did it at all. He already knew that Emily was kind-hearted, would never do such a despicable thing. After the truth is revealed, James was filled with hatred for Lily, tightly clenched his teeth. Original. Emily's death, all caused by Lily the evil woman. He originally thought that Lily was a simple little girl. He didn't expect her to be so scheming. He rushed into the ward. He pinched Lily's neck, angrily said, "So it was you who killed Emily. I want you to pay for Emily's life." Lily pretended to be weak. She wanted to continue to act, until James put the surveillance video in front of her. Seeing the truth being revealed, Lily couldn't pretend anymore. She couldn't help but laugh. "James, in terms of ruthlessness, I can't compare to you. I just said a few words to Emily, but you did it for me. You caused her to have a car accident. You even removed her uterus. That's ridiculous. The real murderer. It should be you." James heard the last sentence. His heart was like a knife. He was all of a sudden bruised. "Quickly come here. Pull Lily out. Let her taste what Emily has suffered, and she'll get it back tenfold. James, you will have your retribution sooner or later." Lily has just finished her sentence. She was taken away by dozens of bodyguards who rushed in. James was the only one left in the room. He sat down on the floor all of a sudden. The whole person collapsed. Just at this moment, the phone suddenly rang, breaking the silence in the room. The coroner said urgently on the phone, "James, the DNA test result of this body came out. It's not Madam's. It doesn't match." James was shocked by the news. He immediately rushed to the medical examiner. After confirming it over and over again, he found that the body was not Emily's. In addition, the results of the forensic identification showed when the body was retrieved from the sea, the deceased had already passed away for 3 hours, an hour ago. Emily also had a fight with Lily. "Emily is not dead. She's still alive," James ordered. "Find someone immediately, no matter how far away. Find Emily for me. Meanwhile, I have arrived in Croatia. The scenery here is as beautiful as a fairy tale. I booked an inn in advance, decided to stay, rested for a month. After adjusting my mind, introduced by a friend, I went to work as a teacher in a children's organization. Maybe because of the regret of not being able to have children, or natural inclination. I especially love to be with children. After working for a month, I got acquainted with the children very quickly. They all called me Mtkes Emily. With these kids, I smile more and more. Only here, I feel alive, feeling the vigor of life. I thought life could stay so peaceful. I didn't expect James to show up again. He found me somewhere. When I saw him, he was standing on the roadside opposite the organization. Looking at me from afar, he looked very haggard. His chin was full of stubble. The whole person looked particularly downcast. I took the children by the hand, took them to their parents, then waved goodbye to the kids. After sending all the kids away, there was no one around me. James seized the opportunity to cross the street. He slowly walked towards me. His face was full of tears. He was full of apologies. "Emily, the moment I heard you died, I knew I was wrong. I shouldn't have left you in the cold. I went to please Lily and Ethan. Now I've broken off contact with them. Can you forgive me? What happened between Lily and me was an accident. I was too young. I couldn't resist the temptation, but I promise I won't do it again. Can you give me another chance?" After listening to his confession, I felt nothing in my heart. I just felt bored. I waved my hand. "Since you planned that car accident and removed my uterus, it's all over between us. James, you think it's funny to lie to me. You must have thought so. Why else would you hurt me over and over again? You're gone. I'm better off without you. I'm better off now. With you. I feel nothing but pain. It's worse than death. James looked at me blankly. Tears were streaming down his face once again. He fell to his knees. He kept kowtowing to me. There was a crowd of people watching. I'm sorry, Emily. Emily, I did this to you. It was me. I failed you. I didn't want to see his belated love and repentance. I turned and walked away. That was the last time I saw James. He hasn't appeared in front of me since. Maybe my words hurt him, or maybe he realized his situation. He didn't want to bother me anymore. What happened later? I heard about it from my friends back home. James went back to China and turned himself in to the police. He explained all the crimes he had committed over the years. As a result, he was sentenced. He went to jail. Lily was tortured by James' men in a particularly vicious way. She finally had a nervous breakdown. She jumped into the river and committed suicide. As for the kid Ethan, the test results show that he's not James' biological son. He was born to Lily and her ex-husband, but her ex-husband was a gambler, completely unwilling to take the responsibility of raising Ethan. Finally, Ethan was sent to an orphanage. After Ethan went through all these things, he got a temperamental disorder. He made a lot of noise in the orphanage. One day when I was off work, I received a delivery from China. I opened it. Inside was a bank card. The note was written by James. Emily, the past can't be changed, but please allow me to make a final amends for you. I have deposited all my money into this bank card. May your future life be full of confidence and beauty.